Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nicholas Whitaker from the Google News Lab. This is our second office hours, open office hours, September edition. We have a really great lineup here for you today. Vanessa Schneider and Adam Hecht are joining us from the Geo team to talk a little bit about Google Maps and Google Earth. Before we get into that, though, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update from last month. We did have a few issues with the Hangout, and we are cutting together a highlight reel of that event. So if you were not able to join us from that, or if you were having trouble following along with us on that Hangout, we will have that up on our YouTube page shortly. I also just wanted to talk a little bit about the News Lab more generally for those of you who are not already familiar with the News Lab or some of the various things that we offer. I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown on our tools. If you take a look here, and everyone should be able to see my screen now, you'll actually see a link to our website. If you go to g.co/newslab, or if you go to newslab.withgoogle.com, you'll find our landing page. And on that site, we have a wide range of tools that are available for working journalists. So if you're interested in learning more about how to use any of our tools as a reporting or as a news gathering tool, this is a really great resource for you. We've created a curriculum based on various tools. Here's one from Google Maps, which we'll be talking about in a little bit more detail today. So if you're interested in learning how to use Google Maps to share where stories happen, or maybe embedding your story or embedding a map into your story, this is a really great place to start. Most of the lessons are less than 10 minutes long. They will take you through step by step through a card-based learning platform, which combines animated graphics, video, as well as text. So depending on how you learn, there should be something there for everybody. And we're expanding this curriculum every month. So if we don't have a tool here that is something that you're looking for, definitely check back, and feel free to get in touch with us as well. We have various different links to our social media channels here. We are on Twitter. We are encouraging everyone to send us their questions and comments via our Twitter handle @Google News Lab. Arun, who we'll talk to a little bit later on, is the one that's managing the feeds today. So if you have any questions or comments while the Hangout is going on, by all means, feel free to reach out to us. We're interested and excited to talk to you. Also, our YouTube page. So for those of you who are watching the Hangout, you might actually be watching it right now built into our YouTube account. That's @newslab@Google. You'll find all kinds of frequently asked question videos, links to documentaries about data journalism, about the world of digital journalism today. So again, worth taking a look at. And then, of course, our Google Plus page, which is a really great resource to find out new and updated information about where we're at, what new tools are available, features, and so on. We're going to be sending a lot more links around to you later on during the presentation today. Don't worry if you are madly scribbling these down and trying to catch up. We're going to put those in the comments in the YouTube video below. Vanessa and I are both very guilty of talking very quickly, so luckily this is all being recorded, so you can always feel free to rewind and play it back over again. But again, those URL links will be available to you both in the YouTube video after the event and as well on the Google Plus page. I think that's a pretty good place to stop. I would like to take the opportunity to introduce my colleague and good friend, Vanessa Schneider. I think we've traveled roughly, what would you say, like 35 countries together over the last several years.
And counting.
And counting. I call her my work wife. I spend more time with her often than I do with my own. Vanessa, tell us a little bit about what you do and what are we doing here today?
Yeah, so thanks again for having me, Nick. Really excited to talk about maps and Earth for journalists today. So my name's Vanessa Schneider, and I am on the what we call the Geo team here at Google. So that just kind of encompasses all of our Geo products: Google Maps, Google Earth, Street View, and many more. And my whole job is to work with journalists and media professionals globally who are thinking through ways to use our many Geo products in their research, in their storytelling, in their visualizations. So that's kind of how I work with the News Lab, just kind of thinking about our Geo tools through the lens of journalists and journalism, and how you guys can really start applying these things to your work. And I think I have a lot of ideas to share with you today, but I'm really excited to get to your questions as well. And do we want to quickly introduce Adam over here? as well?
Yeah, please do. Adam, tell us a little bit about what you do and how you're brought into the fold here.
Oh, my name is Adam, and I work on the Google Earth team, specifically on a lot of the 3D data and things like that. And so I'm here in case you have any questions about Google Earth to help you get those answered. Like Vanessa said, it's a really powerful research tool and a broadcast tool. We've got some really neat ways for you to use it and to learn how to use it, so you can quickly and easily get your stuff on the air, and we'll teach you how to do it.
And I would just add to that Adam is a fantastic resource for this type of thing. We get questions from people all over the world about how to better integrate their tools and how to better use mapping tools in the reporting. It's not always easy, and it's not always obvious. So if you have questions, you can always reach out to us at mediatools@google.com. That email goes out to me, it goes out to Vanessa, it goes out to Adam, and a lot of other people that are on at Google that can help answer your questions. So I think the biggest takeaway from this presentation today is that there are people available, and we are interested in hearing from you, and we're here to help. All right, with that, I'm going to bounce it back to Vanessa and take it away.
So I think what we'll do for the next few minutes is kind of look at some of these tools, and Nick kind of referenced some of the information on the News Lab website about them, but we really just kind of wanted to highlight a couple that we think will be useful to your workflow, and then kind of hopefully be able to show you some examples of how they're being applied. But again, we're excited to hear your questions, so please write into Arun so he can gather them up and send them our way. So I'm going to start a screen share and hopefully do this correctly.
And I'm sorry, Vanessa, before we do that, while you're getting that set up, I was negligent in not actually introducing our other colleague here, Arun, who actually just joined our team not even, what was it, 2 days ago, Arun? Or was it a day ago? Arun, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do on the team and what you're hoping to get out of today?
Yeah, definitely. Just 2 days ago. So thanks, Nick, for the gracious introduction. My name is Arun. I am 2 days into the Google News Lab, formerly on the Google Strategy and Operations team here in the marketing organization. One of the things I really like from everyone who's tuned in today is just let us know if you have any questions. Please don't be bashful. Send them on YouTube, as Nick mentioned before. Send them on the Google Plus account. Feel free to tweet at us. The more questions we get, the healthier, more constructive and engaging discussion we'll be able to have. So please don't hesitate and let us know what's on your mind and how we can help it.
Perfect. Thanks.
Great. Okay, cool. So I'm going to screen share. Let's see. Let's hope this works. How does that look, Nick?
That looks like me.
Do you see? Do you see my Google group?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Excellent. And you can tell me if it lags a little bit. So we're going to look at some mapping tools here at Google and think of them through the lens of how you would want to build visualizations with them to build these kind of really compelling visuals to plug into your web stories, to plug into your broadcast stories, even print. But first, let me share some resources before I get into some of the individual tools. The first thing I wanted to share with you is something that we call Google News Lab updates, or our media alerts. And this is actually a mailing list that we maintain just for journalists. You can sign up at g.co/Google Media Alerts. Maybe we can tweet that out or something. We can share that link afterwards as well. But basically, this is a mailing list where through it we send content, assets, B-roll related to Google Maps and Google Earth that you can use, hopefully, for sort of breaking news related stories. So, for instance, if you go to that link right now, you can see all the past notes that we've sent through. So, for instance, let's see, on September 18th, we sent a note. We had received fresh satellite imagery of Chile after the earthquake there. So we'll send you, high-resolution images. We'll send you the actual imagery file that you can download and open in Google Earth to kind of just explore the imagery and see how this might work for your coverage. Maybe you want to show a before and after view of some of the damage along the coast on the ground. This can be a resource for that. And we send a bunch of different kinds of stuff through this list. I kind of just encourage you to check out the link. If you have a Google account, you can sign up. We promise to send just a few notes a month and try to keep it pretty targeted to what's happening in the news and what might be useful kind of happening right then and there. Yeah, I encourage you to explore that. Another resource I wanted to share, even beyond the Google News Lab website, which has it's kind of a great starting point to start learning about some of our mapping tools. But in addition to that, we also have this Google site, which you can find at, it's just a bit.ly link, bit.ly/Geo, Geo Media Lab. And on this website, it's just focused on using our many mapping tools for storytelling and visualization. So you can kind of start diving into the different tools. We have tutorials and data you can use to practice on this site. We also have links to examples of how news websites are already using these tools. So I encourage you just again to consider this another educational resource for you. And that's public site, and you can access it at any time.
And I'd just like to jump in there a little bit too, Vanessa. I think that as someone who is just starting out learning about these tools, one of the big questions is like, where do I go? Where do I find resources and information? And I think that Vanessa and her team have done a really excellent job of condensing a lot of this information in one location. So if you're interested in geo more broadly, or if you're interested in mapping or data visualization, this is a really amazing place to start, and this is free. This is the kind of education that you would get from another university and spend thousands of dollars for. So as far as a good resource and a fantastic way to get started working with this, or maybe to refresh yourself on some of the tools that you may have heard about that haven't touched in a while, this is definitely a great place to start. And then tied to that would also be our website, g.co/newslab, where we're continuing to expand those lessons as well.
Yeah, definitely with the NewsLab website. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we kind of had on this Google site, which I've just been maintaining for a few years, we're sort of massaging into brand new, fresh tutorials on the NewsLab website. So they're kind of both really complementary and stuff you can use together. All right. Well, enough about that. Let's talk about actual tools. Give you some tips. First, what we're going to start with is kind of thinking about web maps. So if you're working on a website, thinking about mobile, kind of how can you build custom interactive maps to plug into your stories, to complement your stories, to host and share your data. And the easiest sort of way to get started with building a web map with Google Maps is using just a feature we have called embeddable maps. And I'm on a website right now that hopefully you've used once or twice, maps.google.com, and I actually did a search for Park Avenue and East 116th Street, where the Harlem building collapse happened last year. So this always happens. So, X event happens, and it's breaking news, and you want to visualize, where this is located on the map, and you want to plug that into your story. So you can just simply do a search for an address on Google Maps. And then up here on the left, there's a menu icon. You can click on that, and then there's a share or embed map option. So go ahead and click that. And then here you can get a URL to this exact map, which you can embed into some text if you just want to link out from your story. Or you can hit this embed map option. And here you can see it's just looking at the view of what it would look like if you were to copy and paste this iframe up here and then plug that into the source code for your web page, and then that interactive map will just live on your website. And so you can use our classic map. You can switch it to our satellite map if you want that photographic view of the ground. And one of our biggest users of this feature is actually news websites, because often, breaking news happens, you don't have a visual for it yet, but you kind of just want to add some kind of context. I think this is a great, quick, easy way to do it. Anyone on your staff can work with, and it's a free, unlimited tool that you can use. And I also want to mention that I'm showing you classic and satellite mode, but if you dive into Street View, and I'm just picking a random Street View, let's see, I think maybe this was one of the buildings. So here you're in a Street View panorama. You can also embed these. So you can go up to this menu icon in the top left that says share or embed image, and it's the exact same thing. And then you have that interactive panorama now embedded on your website. And we have Street View, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes, all over the world. So you can think of lots of different stories this can really complement. And again, it just adds that interactive, immersive element to your web and mobile-based stories. All right, so that is embeddable maps. So that's kind of just taking the canvas that we've created, this Google Map canvas, and not changing much about it. Where it starts to really get interesting is when you kind of take our map and start adding information and start customizing that map to really tell the story that you want to tell. And so, for instance, the best way to get started with building these custom maps. So there's a tool we have called Google My Maps. And maybe many of you out there have used it before. If you just Google My Maps, it'll pull the tool up and you can check it out. But this really allows you to kind of, again, build these custom maps. You can add icons, you can add lines and polygons onto the map. And here's just an example of one from CTV News in Canada for the MH17 crash last year. They just built kind of a simple custom map showing the flight path, and then they have some icons on here. So if you click on one of them, this is actually a new design that we just launched a few days ago. We sort of updated the design. It's more mobile friendly, kind of really slick. So when you click on an icon, this info window on the left, this panel pops up. And you can add images, you can add YouTube videos, you can add hyperlinks to more information. You can really start kind of customizing a lot of information about this map. And then you can see here that this map is embedded directly on the CTV News website, so that once you've finished creating your map, you can very easily plug it in with a little bit of code that we give you, and it just kind of recreates this map. And again, just an immersive experience for your readers.
Vanessa, I'd like to ask you a quick question about that. So as far as like a newsroom is concerned, an individual journalist, how hard would it be for a journalist that does not have a ton of experience doing data visualization to kind of weave into this type of visualization?
That's a great question. We built this tool to be a tool for someone who has never built a map before and is just getting started, because we envision in Geo everyone building maps and sharing really great Geo-related knowledge. So we really wanted to make this tool as simple as possible. So if you have never built an interactive map before and you kind of always thought, oh, that's for the developer, it's too advanced, this is the kind of tool where I would hope that you would start using it and you kind of have a light bulb go off and say, oh, wow, I can build these maps myself. I think it's a really empowering tool. And so when we teach workshops, Nick, you've been to them, we always kind of start with Google My Maps and just start kind of doing lessons and exercises around that, just to kind of show people how simple it is. I mean, even something like this MH17 map here on CTV News, probably the most time part of this is kind of the information gathering, the information cleaning. The actual just creation of this map, very simple to do, requires no programming knowledge, and you can kind of get this on your website pretty quickly.
And I would add to that too. Most stories have a geographical element to them. And I think that adding context to a story is always a really useful way to help readers better understand what's being discussed. As far as like this mapping tool goes and thinking more broadly about geo tools, are there ways of thinking about approaching stories, maybe iterative or other types of approaches? Like I'm on a deadline, I need to get the map out. How much time and effort do I need to put into this before putting out the first version of it?
Oh yeah, I think. Well, what's nice about these maps is that you can edit them over time. So, if you don't have a ton of information up front, you can kind of get something out the door, and then these maps are actually, you can create them via your Google Drive account, and they kind of live in there. And just like a Google Doc or Google Sheet, you can share them with other editors, and people can be collaborating on these maps and building them together. So it can definitely be a collaborative process, and it can be one that you can build on over time. I know that the CBC News had built a My Map for the Washington mudslide a couple of years ago. Was that a couple of years? I can't remember. And they had, they had the initial information of where the mudslide happened, where floods were happening near it, and then over time they were just kind of adding on more contextual information as it became available, and the tool makes it really easy to keep updating. Does that answer your question, Nick?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that one of the key elements there is the collaborative nature of these tools. You don't necessarily need to wait for the graphics department to be able to create your map. If you're in a breaking news situation, pretty much anybody that has access to the web can create one of these. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, you just need a Google account to get started. And like I said, you can go to your Drive account, like I have here, drive.google.com, hit New. Under More, there's a Google My Maps option. You can use your work account. I know many of you guys are using Google Apps for work. This will be found in your menu as well, or your kind of personal Gmail accounts. And yeah, I also wanted to follow up with, Nick had briefly kind of showed it, but on Google News Lab site under Tools, I'm just going to click out of here just to show it again. So I clicked the Tools, G.co News Lab, and I went to the Google Maps section, hit View Lessons, and then we have a My Maps tutorial already ready to go to help you kind of walk through. It says up here it takes 10 minutes to complete this lesson, so that's how fast you can kind of get up and running. From just a few individual data points to kind of having this full-fledged interactive map that you can embed on your website.
And as the curriculum grows, we'll have more tutorials around various tools that Google has. We also have the search feature that's built right in within the website. So if you're interested in finding all of the lessons that deal with maps, just type maps into the search bar, and it'll pull up all those lessons for you.
Excellent. So My Maps is kind of like a really great place to get started. And then sort of like a sort of next level as you start really getting into mapping, we have another tool called Google Fusion Tables, which you may have heard about, often talked about within the context of data journalism, just kind of one of those great tools to kind of get you started with that. And what is Fusion Tables? So it's a tool that allows you to take really large spreadsheets. So you're often working in Microsoft Excel or in Google spreadsheets and sort of editing and organizing your data in that format. And then once you have the spreadsheet, the question is always, how do you visualize this? How do you share it with your readers? And so Fusion Tables makes it easy to kind of turn that spreadsheet into an interactive map, and also you have the option to build interactive charts, so bar graphs, line graphs, timelines. We're talking in the context of maps today, so I wanted to highlight some examples of this. So here's one from the Guardian Data blog, which is a great resource to kind of just keep up with data tools and stories. And this was actually created and spearheaded by one of our News Lab colleagues, Simon Rogers. This is a map documenting each of the deaths and injuries during the Iraq War, based on some WikiLeaks documents. So this is a spreadsheet they had with thousands of rows of information, and for each of the events, they actually had a latitude and longitude of each event. So if you have some location information in a spreadsheet, they were able to pull this into Fusion Tables and map this. And so it kind of instantly transforms this spreadsheet into a very, visually powerful, compelling map. Just sort of the density of points, it's interactive, so you can click on each of them and kind of get more information about that event. And Simon has said this is one of their most popular interactives on the Guardian's website. So I love to show off this example, just kind of the power of you have this data in the spreadsheet, and now you kind of really turn it into something that your reader can consume and understand and interact with. Another cool feature of Fusion Tables, best explained in an example, is the San Francisco Chronicle had written last year about Airbnb and how it was impacting San Francisco real estate prices and neighborhoods. And so I'm just going to scroll down here. They built some maps as part of the story with Fusion Tables, and you'll notice this is a little different looking than the Guardian example, which was more of a point map. This one is actually an intensity map, so it has each of the polygons for the San Francisco neighborhoods, and then they kind of colored each of those polygons based on some values that they had. So in this case, they wanted to show just kind of the number of Airbnb rentals by neighborhood. So the dark red colors are, there's more Airbnb rentals happening there than some of the lighter color areas. And often these are the kinds of maps you're going to want to build. These intensity maps, these choroplasts. And so this is also you also have the ability to build these in Fusion Tables, and just like My Maps, you actually don't need to be a programmer to build these. So these kind of maybe look complicated at first glance, but with a little bit of work and just kind of understanding the tool, you don't actually have to touch any code to be able to build these interactives in Fusion Tables, and we make it really easy for you to embed these on your website. So I like to kind of highlight that nice functionality of the tool. And actually, if we go back, I'm going to skip back to my Google Maps website here. There's a Fusion Tables tab, and when you click on that, there's actually, I think I have 3 or 4 tutorials, 4 tutorials that actually teach you how to import data into Fusion Tables and build some of these intensity maps. So there's exercises, they take maybe about 15 to 20 minutes to complete, just kind of step-by-step guides on how to do these kinds of things, and I encourage you to use this as a resource. All right, so that's Fusion Tables. Last point on the kind of interactive map space, you might get started with My Maps and Fusion tables. You're not a programmer, you don't have that much time, you're on deadline. But we do have options for you to kind of really customize your interactive maps experience that you're building for your website. And this is using some developer tools that we have. And you do need to know some HTML and JavaScript in order to use them. But once you kind of know once you kind of start diving into that, you can really customize the look and feel of these interactives. And so often newsrooms kind of want to go this route because they really want to, have full control over the colors of the map, and they want to add search bars, and they want to add their own custom icons and all types of things. And we have lots of information and documents on that for you. But I just wanted to highlight a couple examples of what's possible. So I really like this one. This is from WNYC. This is for the New York City Marathon last year, I believe. So I love maps that sort of crowdsource reader knowledge and engage readers. And this is a great one that just kind of asks you to share your favorite locations to watch the marathon and watch the action. So you can kind of take this pin and drag it somewhere along the map. And then this form pops up, and you can submit it, and you can submit your thoughts and quotes about it. It's just kind of a really slick implementation. They also added a search bar up here that you can use. And these are the kinds of tweaks and kind of customizations that are available, again, when you kind of just dive into the code of these maps a little bit.
So Vanessa, I just wanted to kind of chime in on that as well. I think one of the great powers of a visualization like this, having lived in New York, and the marathon is a big part of that city, just getting across from one part of the city to the other can be a bit of an issue, and a lot of times you'll see just a screen capture of a map showing where a particular event is taking place. In your opinion, what's the benefit of having an interactive map like this versus, say, just a still grab of a map or an illustration?
Absolutely. I mean, just as a reader myself and a consumer of all of these kind of stories and kind of just information, I mean, this is far more engaging for me, and I stay on that page longer because I'm clicking around and I'm interacting. And if I submit something to this map, I might come back to it and say, oh yay, my submission was accepted and it's on the map and I can share it with my friends. It's just a lot more, and it's a lot more personal to me and just kind of localized to to my area and to my knowledge of this marathon. So I think it's just, again, it's just that engagement, it's just that immersion, which you just don't get with a screenshot of a map, because your readers are expecting maps to be interactive, to be immersive, and for some of these elements to be included in the story. So I think being able to provide that to them is just a great service. And they learn a lot more when they actually engage directly with the content. They're going to learn and have better context around the information versus just kind of seeing a static image that is kind of passive and that they're not really kind of understanding.
And I think engagement is really that key word there. Giving readers an opportunity to participate, and to add their voice into that story, to make that story their own. I mean, I think these types of tools really help with that.
Yes, absolutely. And so related to our developer tools, I've been showing you kind of these flat two-dimensional maps, but I want you to think about Google Maps as kind of lots of different data sets. One big one being our Street View imagery. And so the New York Times created this interactive after the Nepal earthquake, and it's a little laggy, I'm sorry. If you just Google New York Times, Nepal, before and after, you can actually pull it up and play with it. It's just a lot more compelling probably that way for you to directly interact with it. But what you're looking at here is, on the left, this is a Street View panorama taken by a user and shared to Google Maps. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So on the left, this panorama is something that you could access via our developer tools and pull into your own applications. So you can access any Street View panorama we've ever collected, whether it's Google owned or whether a user has submitted to our map. You can access that for your interactives. And then you can even see down here that the user is copyrighted, so their name is on there. It's an image that they own. And then you can see here on the right, this is a New York Times image, so you can see that in the copyright on the bottom right. So they, after the earthquake, they actually had sent a photographer on the ground to these kinds of locations they had found in Street View, and just kind of using a DSLR camera, kind of just took a bunch of images, stitched them all together to create their own, essentially custom Street View panorama. And then again, just using a bit of programming, stitch those two together to kind of create this very compelling before and after view. And they've created a few of them. Oh, I'm going to scroll past that one. And you can see the kind of the before and after here of this one as well. So I definitely encourage you to think kind of, you know, you can go to our developer site. Here, let me pull it up. developers.google.com/maps. And here you can read all about our tools to kind of help you tap into lots of different things like our traffic information, our satellite imagery, our street view imagery. Just kind of, there's all types of stuff to explore here, and I encourage you to kind of think outside the box of what you think of as a map interactive. Okay. So since I brought up Street View, which is a whole fun topic unto itself, and I'm sure out there you all are familiar with our street level photography project. So some ways we've seen journalists use these is, so right now I'm just in maps.google.com, and I'm in a Street View panorama looking at the Freedom Tower in New York City. And one interesting thing that we launched, I believe this was early last year, is the ability to see historical Street View panoramas. So at the top here on the left, there is a clock icon, which indicates we can actually go back in time and see past Street View collections of this particular area on the map. So if I click on that, this opens this kind of thumbnail view and this little time slider where you can see the notches on there. So it actually goes all the way back to September 2007. So when I click on that, now I can see you know, a different view from this exact same spot, and you can actually see the construction just kind of being built over time. And so if you think about this, you can take this imagery and you can build animated GIFs, even though Nick might say GIF. Which one, Nick?
I say animated graphics.
Okay. So, all right, GIF or GIF, whichever you prefer. So you can kind of just, you know, nothing special about it actually, just taking a screenshot you know, of this and then saving multiple ones and creating GIF is something easy to do, quick, shareable, just kind of with our imagery here. So I definitely want to point out the historical option. It's not available everywhere, and you kind of just have to dive into Street View and just see if you see the clock, and you kind of have to experiment with it. But there's some pretty interesting things you can see in there, just kind of in terms of city development and kind of change over time. Some really interesting stuff. So that's Street View, and often, and just on this other point, you know, I mentioned the Harlem building collapse earlier, just kind of in the vein of the embeddable map. But around that news story, we definitely saw a lot of folks just going to Street View and taking a screen grab of what we had live for that building, just kind of using it as the before shot. This was happening online, this was happening in broadcast. So Street View is great for that kind of before look when, you know, an event happens in a city somewhere, you can kind of get that perspective. But what's really exciting about Street View is actually, and I just referenced it, is the ability to create your own 360-degree panoramas. So custom panoramas that you can then embed on your website to, again, you know, Nick and I have been talking about kind of this, you know, engagement, immersion. I think it's, you know, a really nice option. Obviously, still images can be extremely powerful, really beautiful, really compelling. This kind of, you know, if something lends itself to an interactive panorama, that's just a great way to kind of get your readers clicking around and kind of just really kind of immersing themselves in the story. So if we go to the Street View website here, google.com/maps/Street View, we have a publish page, and we have a lot of information. There's a lot of different ways to kind of create these panoramas. Nick, do you want to talk to some of the equipment?
Yeah, definitely. So
Great.
what Vanessa actually has pulled up right now is one of many new products that are coming out from various third-party providers. This is the Ricoh Theta S, really a fantastic upgrade from their previous edition of the Ricoh Theta. And what this allows you to do is one-touch 360-degree panoramic image capture. So if you're out in a news environment, breaking news is happening, you don't necessarily have time to pull your phone out and take the 3 minutes it takes to do a photosphere. But with this, what it allows you to do, it has a camera on both sides of that device, a lens on both sides of the device, which creates a 360-degree view. This one particular shoots 14 megapixels with photos. It also shoots video. and it works really well with Google products like YouTube 360, as well as our cardboard viewers, as well as other third-party viewers as well. So if you're thinking about getting into immersive storytelling, especially from a visual standpoint, this is a really easy way to kind of get into that. I'd be hesitant not to mention the fact that you can also do the same thing with your mobile device. It just takes a little bit longer. Oftentimes the quality is much higher than you would get from something like a Ricoh. But then you could also use a professional DSLR camera. Back before I joined the News Lab, I actually worked briefly doing 360 panoramic images inside of businesses to include in Google Maps as part of a program that was being done there. And really what I used was, at the time, it was a 5D Mark III, a Canon camera on a tripod. I took a series of photos in a circle and then was able to upload those into the Stitcher to then include into Google Maps. The same thing can be done with news stories. And this is a particular area of focus that I'm very interested in. We were just at the Online News Association last week. We had a booth where we highlighted a lot of different options, including Google Cardboard, including a feature called Story Spheres, which I think Vanessa might get into a little bit later on. But the idea with this is oftentimes, the best way to tell a story is to put the reader or the viewer in that environment so they can experience it themselves. And now there's a lot more options available to us to be able to do just that.
I'm pulling up Story Spheres, Nick, if you want to segue.
Yeah, that's a good segue. So Story Spheres, I'm a huge fan of this particular experiment. This is a project with our Creative Lab team here at Google, as well as an outside agency called Grumpy Sailor. Really fantastic product. What they did here was they recognized that there was a missing step between doing a photosphere, which is that 360-degree panoramic image, either with your phone, a Ricoh, or another device like that, or a DSLR camera, and working with something like video, 360 video. There's an in-between spot there, and what they were able to do is figure out a way where you could take that 360-degree image and then add sound to it. So instead of it just being a soundtrack that works in the background, you can literally place a sound cue, and we're looking at the Dubai fountains right there. Actually, I believe we have been to that. If you were to stand right next to that pool and perhaps you wanted to put an audio clip of the fountain in the background happening, or the music that's coming from the bar, or an interview that you do with somebody right there in the field, it makes it very easy to do that. And they've actually created a Google an app as well, so you can download this right on your phone, and you can stitch these images and sounds together on your phone. The most time that it takes to do this is actually just capturing the audio. And I have best practices and some shopping lists that I'm going to be putting together in the next few weeks. So if people are interested in working with Story Spheres and Photospheres, definitely check out the website storyspheres.com. And also, you can search online, and Vanessa, you might actually be able to pull this up. The Washington Post actually did a really good job of covering Fashion Week using Story Spheres, and they did a write-up on their experience of trying to do this for the first time. They went out with untested technology, with an untested platform, and just experimented. And we're able to capture quite an interesting look at the behind the scenes of New York Fashion Week using something as simple as a 360 camera and some audio clips. And we encourage this type of activity. So if you're working with these things, feel free to experiment. Get in touch with us. Let us know that you're working with them. We'll be very excited to highlight your work in the presentations that we do, and also work with you more closely to figure out best practices.
Excellent. Thank you. So we're not finished, even though we just hit you with a lot of information.
Oh, wait, there's more.
There is always more. This is where we're going to pull Adam in. We wanted to switch gears a little bit to talk about Google Earth, which has, we could have a whole day talking about Google Earth, but we wanted to highlight two features for you that we think are really useful for kind of content creators, for storytellers. Actually, let me pull up the first one. Let me pull up Earth. Can you see Earth okay, Nick?
Yeah, you're good.
Good. So I had mentioned the mailing list earlier, and I mentioned that we had shared earthquake imagery for Chile a couple weeks ago. And so, what you can do with that is, I had mentioned we send you the imagery file to download and open in Google Earth. So you can see here, I've already tried to save us some steps where I've actually opened this imagery, which came from one of our imagery providers called Digital Globe. say send it to us. And so you can actually open this imagery along in Google Earth, and on the left you can see all of the images when they were captured. And just to kind of give you a close-up view, so what you can do is you can kind of, and sorry if it's a little laggy, what you can do is you can go in here, you can open the imagery, and then what you can also do is, so this is the fresh imagery, you can see all the debris, you can see the damage along the coast, and then you can actually turn this imagery off to see, we have imagery here from September, it's like, oh, I see, we've updated it. So you can actually go into our historical imagery. There's a historical imagery button up here at the top. And what you can do is you can toggle back to past scenes of that coast, just to kind of get that historical perspective. And then you can go ahead and turn on the new imagery to kind of do that before and after view. And then, so how do you use this in a story? So we're just in the Google Earth application right now. What you can do is go up to File and then Save, and then there's a Save Image option, and we give you a bunch of different resolution options to kind of export high-resolution JPEGs that you can then use in kind of before and after interactives. You can just kind of plug those JPEGs right into your website. You can pull them into Adobe Illustrator and add additional fonts and labels and features. And this is kind of just like a really sort of nice, handy tool. And I should also mention this is only available in Google Earth Pro, which is actually free now. So if you just download Google Earth Pro, we have all the information for you there. You can also email us if you have any trouble. But this application, this Pro, is actually free now. So please do download this version, and you can get that kind of save and export high-res JPEGs feature.
And I would just add to that too, like 9 times out of 10, whenever we get an email from somebody, they're like, "Oh, I'm having trouble with Google Earth. I'm not able to do that thing, or the thing's not working the way I want it to." 9 times out of 10, it's because you have an older version. So, like with anything, turn it on, turn it back off again. Make sure you've got the right version downloaded. Restart your computer, and then if you're still having trouble, email us. That's what we're here for.
Yes. Adam, would you like to step in and explain some of the movie making functionality in Google Earth?
Certainly. Can you hear me?
Yes, and I'm going to play this video while you're giving the intro.
Sure. So just like you made an image, how Vanessa showed you how you can save an image out of Google Earth, you can find a location and export a JPEG. You can also export a series of images as either a JPEG stream or a movie file. And this is an example of something we did for the Papal Conclave a few years ago. We set a few place marks in Earth, which you're probably familiar with. It looks like a little yellow thumbtack, and then you just link all those together, and the camera will just fly through them. It's a pretty straightforward process, and like Vanessa was saying, sometimes you might not have time to kick it over to your graphics department, but as long as you've got a computer and you have the time to let the computer export the video, you can create these pretty high quality videos for yourself. And this is an example of one where the building of this video that we're looking at right now probably took less than 10 minutes, and the exporting definitely took less than 10 minutes. And then you can take this, you're given a .mov file, and you can either take that thing straight to air, you can kick it over to your graphics department, they can do overlays on top of it, everything like that.
And I also pulled up the tutorial, Adam, if you want to talk a little bit about this one.
Yes.
On the News Lab website, yeah.
No. Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry.
I didn't want to interrupt you. I want you to keep going.
My screen was lagging a little bit there.
No worries.
Vanessa, why don't you go through this tutorial? I'm not as familiar with it, I don't think, as you are.
Well, we're not going to, we just want to point it out as a resource. So, so Adam and I worked on this tutorial with Nick to basically just sort of walk you through what it takes to kind of just build a simple just that kind of classic, you're kind of at the globe view, you zoom into a location, and you kind of orbit around a location. Similar to kind of how Adam actually built this Vatican City tour. So similar to how we do this, we have the tutorial on the News Lab website that kind of walks you through these steps. And Adam included some really great kind of just movie rendering tips as well. And it's kind of just for best practices and to kind of help you get up and running on this quickly, because it takes a little bit of practice.
And just different ways of thinking about using the tool as well. I think, what was it, the googly swoop? I think that was the
Yes.
yeah, that was the term that was used for the swoop down from Earth view down into a location. We see that time and time again on broadcasts and other properties. People just trying to show where an event happened and get people to there. It acts as a really good in-between kind of interstitial shot also in broadcast. So we see that a lot on broadcast news as well.
One of the neat things about Earth is you can create this video, this Google swoop, like the fly down, just very simply, and there's a wide range of complexity you can go with. But at the most simple level, you're just showing a moving image. And for a lot of things like that papal conclave, people just got tired of seeing the same kind of B-roll of the Vatican from outside, and it added kind of a nice little context shot to it, so you could see kind of what was around. It sort of broke things up.
And Adam, can you talk a little bit about the imagery you see in this tour?
Yeah, the 3D imagery. So what we looked at when we saw the Chilean landslide or earthquake, what we looked at here, this is 2D imagery. This is top-down imagery from satellites that's collected, and then it's mapped over our terrain in Google Earth. And in some places where we've been able to collect it, we've got 3D imagery. And it's a really great process. If you ever want to nerd out about it, I would love to talk about it. Email me. And, where we collect photographs and 3D data, and then we map the two together in a situation like what you're looking at right now. It creates a really complete vision of the city that you're looking at. So whereas instead of just having a building here and a building there, we've got the buildings and the trees and the canals and the stoplights and everything that's just there. And a lot of cities have this, a lot of big cities, and we're getting a lot of smaller cities. So if you have a project, this is kind of like the street view or any of the historical imagery. If you've got a project you think that some really beautiful graphics would really give it the extra kick in the pants it needs, zoom into Google Earth and check out and see if it has the 3D imagery. It's optimized so it exports really well for both imagery and video, so it's not really going to slow things down if you want to record a video with 3D imagery. And then, like Vanessa said in that tutorial, there's a lot of suggestions on how to use 3D imagery and how to export your video in the best way.
I have a question coming in from actually somebody emailed me privately on my own email address. So thank you for that. Had a question. So first of all, if anybody's interested in reaching out to us, Twitter, mediatools@google.com, fastest and easiest way to get to us. But also, one of the questions that we had was, let's say, for example, somebody wants to take this imagery, either the still 2D imagery from satellites or an animation, and create an animated graphic out of those instead of a video tutorial or a video tour. Are there ways to do that using Google's tools, and do you have best practices that you can think of around that?
I think that the animated graphic is kind of the unsung hero of a site right now, because you don't have to have anything to load it. There's no video to play back. It's really low bandwidth. And for Earth, especially when we're talking about like that Google swoop, the very simple or a simple orbit around a building, an animated graphic is a really powerful thing because it just sits on the page. It plays on repeat. There's no ads or anything that get placed over the top of it. When you export a video out of Google Earth, you can export it in several formats. As Vanessa pointed out with the save image, there's also, when you export a video, a lot of choices. You can export it as an AVI or a .mov or an MPEG or a JPEG stream. And once you have that, then you can do anything you want with it. You could take it into GIF Brewery and make a GIF out of it. You could take it into any program that'll make. I mean, there's programs that are online that'll you just link it to what you want it to do, and it'll save the graphic for you.
Yeah, Google does not have a GIF generator.
No, but I mean, once you get your movie file, you can do whatever you want.
Just to clarify, it's not built into the tool. You kind of have to export the assets. Yeah.
We do have a wonderful search engine that will help you find all of those, though, for it pretty easily. And I joke, but I mean that is actually the easiest way to find a lot of these resources. So if you're like, oh, I want to actually create an animated graphic or a GIF or a GIF, depending on who you talk to on this Hangout, just quickly search for that. How do I create an animated graphic, or how do I create a GIF? That'll pull up within Google search. Usually the first couple links that are available are the good ones. The good thing about this too is, like, especially if you're in an environment that is low bandwidth, or perhaps you're looking for a mobile audience that you're directing a lot of this to, creating really lightweight animations or really lightweight animated graphics is a really good way to get people engaged. It works really well on social media. It attracts people's attention. It keeps them more engaged on the page as well.
Yeah, and wanted to segue to one more thing if I could, because obviously there's never enough. Let's see. Just kind of on the topic of exporting content, and this usually is when we get a lot of questions around permissions and what you're allowed to do. Can you all see that? Yeah?
Yep, you're good.
Good. If you go to google.com/permissions, there's actually a section here along the left in the navigation on Maps, Earth, and Street View. And this is where we've kind of built an FAQ. We get lots of questions around, how can I use your maps in print, in television, in film, and on the web. And so we tried to answer some of these basic questions here on this website. And the bottom line, just to kind of hopefully simplify it for you guys who are working in news and journalism, is it's cool to use our maps, in print, on websites, on TV. We just ask that you attribute our maps properly to both Google and any data provider we use for that map. So for instance, up here under the basics section, you can see here, can you give me permission to show your content without attribution? The answer is no, but we give you an attribution guide that kind of walks you through, what's acceptable and kind of some guidance around that. And that's really mainly the general rule around this kind of stuff. And this goes for using Street View images, Google Earth satellite imagery, and if you just want to embed a My Map on your website, we definitely encourage you to do so. But if you ever have any questions about permissions, that's also what the mediatools@google.com email address is for as well.
And the key here is that we want people to use the tools. We don't want them to be hung up on, can I use this in this particular instance, or if I use it in this way, am I going to get in trouble? We've created this website for you as a guide, but obviously if you have specific questions, always feel free to reach out to us. mediatools@google.com. What really helps us is providing screenshots of examples of what it might look like in the final publication, or as much detail as possible. And we're happy to help triage that for you.
Absolutely. And that's all for me, so maybe there's some questions.
Yeah, Arun, do we have any questions from the Peanut Gallery or anybody else online?
No questions as of yet, but again, I think we have a few more minutes, so if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to either personally email Nick, which apparently is
that works quite well.
We also know that usually we overwhelm people with a lot of information at once, so we also understand if you're digesting and you kind of, as you start exploring the tools and the News Lab website and the tutorials, and things start coming up, Nick has mentioned it again and again, just reaching out to us at that email, Media Tools, and we're happy to take them kind of as you're going through a project.
Exactly, and just a note too, this Hangout as well as previous News Lab open office hours will be available on our YouTube page. It will be available on our Google Plus page as an archive. Each month we're going to be doing a different topic. Thank you very much, Vanessa and Adam, for joining us from the Geo team and the Google Maps and Earth teams. Arun, thank you for helping out with social media and making sure that everything is running smoothly with that. Next month, we're going to be doing another office hours. We're interested to hear from you about what that topic might be. I have lots of ideas myself, but instead of forcing that upon you, we'd like to hear from you. What topics might you be interested in? What questions do you have that we have not fully answered yet? Actually, Arun, I did get a question off of our friend Mike Downs in the UK off of Twitter. Hello, Mike. He wants to know, Arun, are you on social media, and how does one find you?
Yes, we are on social media. You can find us at Google News Lab. So that's going to be the best way to keep abreast of all of the developments and future office hours that are taking place from our end. Just another thing worth mentioning here is if you guys do have any questions, still digesting all the information, please feel free to go ahead and tweet those or respond to the YouTube thread. We'll continue to take a look at those, and as comments come in, we'll be happy to shoot you guys an email or reach out to you for additional questions.
Exactly, and I think what Mike was actually asking, Arun, is if you personally are on social media, and how do people find you out there on the Twitterverse and elsewhere?
Oh, if I'm personally on social media, yes. So you can find me on, there's a little-known company called Google. They have a phenomenal social network called Google Plus. You can find my Google Plus page. It is Arun Venkataraman. If Nick, you want to forward Mike's information, I'd be happy to reach out to him personally with all my links to all the social network channels that I'm on.
Fantastic. Again, Mike's a really good friend. We end up with a lot of interaction on social media. Mike is a great example. I actually ran into him via Twitter, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but found him via Twitter and via Google+. We have a really great interaction going on, and a lot of people around the world, that's how we get some of the best information about how people are using our tools and what questions you might have. So again, if we're not getting around to talking about a topic that you're interested in, the best way to reach out to us is just ask us questions and let us know. We'll make a topic specifically about that in future office hours. That's it for me. Anybody else have any other things they'd like to add? That sounds like it. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. For those of you who watched the Hangout live, we appreciate your participation. For those of you who are watching this after the fact, feel free to reach out to us at mediatoolsgoogle.com. You can find us on social media, on Twitter, on Google+, on YouTube, and definitely check out our website, g.co/newslab. We will have links to all of the references that we mentioned in this Hangout in the YouTube video, as well as the Google+ page. So do not despair if you missed any of those. And hopefully we'll see you next month. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
And if you're